Welcome to the Women's Wellness Authority Body Literacy Series, a special three-part conversation designed to help women understand their bodies and help the next generation never have to say, I wish someone had taught me this. Most of us were taught about periods, but very few of us were ever taught how our bodies actually work, what our hormones are doing, what a healthy cycle looks like, or how to understand the signals our bodies are constantly giving us. Through this series, we're changing that. Together, we'll learn how to read the language of the body, understand what it's trying to tell us, and explore how we can pass that knowledge on to the next generation with confidence instead of confusion. So come join me. Welcome to the final conversation in the Women's Wellness Authority Body Literacy Series. Over the last two episodes, we've talked about learning to understand our own bodies, recognizing the patterns, the signals, and the incredible information our menstrual cycle provides. But how do we make sure that the next generation grows up with the education so many of us never received? That's exactly what today's conversation is all about. Most women spend decades living in their bodies without ever being taught how their menstrual cycle actually works. We may learn about periods, but very few of us learn about our hormones, what our hormones are doing, what a healthy cycle looks like, or how to understand the signals our bodies are constantly giving us. Today's conversation is a little bit different. Joining me is Julie, a certified fertility awareness educator who helps girls and women better understand their hormones, their cycles, and the incredible wisdom of their bodies. Today, we're speaking to both parents and daughters because understanding the menstrual cycle shouldn't begin in adulthood. It should start long before then. And whether you're preparing your daughter for her first period, navigating puberty together, or realizing there's still more to learn about your own body, this conversation is for all of you. So welcome, Julie.
Hi, I'm so excited for this one.
So for parents listening, one of the biggest questions is often, when do I start having conversations with my daughter about periods? Because many of us don't want to wait until our daughters get their first period to feel caught off guard. So I'm curious, Julie, from your perspective, what's the right age to have this conversation?
It's a really good question. I would say don't wait. My expert advice, expert as much as I can. I am a mom of two as well as an educator, but my advice is as soon as they can toddle into the bathroom to be with you when you're peeing and getting a period, they are ready to hear about periods. The earlier that you can communicate about what's happening to you, what you're experiencing there in the bathroom, the more comfortable they'll be with this topic and the more normal it will be for them. It will be a common, rhythmic, a cyclical occurrence. They'll know that it happens every so often. They don't know the inner workings or why or any of that, but they don't need to know that. If you can start them that early, then at that age, all they need to know is it's a period. It's blood. I get the blood every month or so, every so often, and you'll see it. And you will notice, probably, especially if you have a daughter, you won't have to keep telling them what it is, because when they tootle into the bathroom and they see the blood on your toilet paper, because you don't have to try to hide this or keep it out of the way, just wipe how you normally do. I bring my toilet paper up. I'm trained to look at my toilet paper now. So she sees that and she will say to me, "Oh, it's your period." And usually now that she's done this for a couple of years, she'll say, "Do you have plans? What are your plans? Are you leaving the house? Are you going somewhere?" Like, because she knows that I typically don't do plans. I will have my rituals instead. And so she's like looking out for me. Like, "You don't have plans, do you?"
I will say that I didn't do any of that. And I'm in a stage now where my daughter is becoming a preteen. And so I haven't done any of that. And so it's not normalized in my home. So for those who are in my position and maybe way more private, the point of this episode is really how to approach your child and educate your child. And then also the back part of this episode is we're going to help you do that, right? You can bring your child into the conversation and sit with them, or just allow them the privacy to listen in on themselves, so that if you're not fully comfortable with that, we can do it for you. For someone who's in my position, who was very private and didn't really do that from a very young age, what advice would you have for them?
Yeah, we can titrate it up and down in all kinds of ways. And what I would say for someone whose kids are already older, it's interesting because I think about it as like, have they started menstruating yet or have they not? And I think if a child hasn't yet, as soon as you can feel the confidence and ability to come in and
Mhm,
even start a very simple conversation about your own period, do it. So if they're 9 or 10 or 11, but they haven't reached that point yet, test the waters. Talk about yourself. Do not start talking about it on them
mhm,
because that could get scary really fast for them if you're not coming from a place of having this be normal conversation. Talk about you, see how it's received, test the waters on that child.
mhm,
Maybe they want to remain kind of in their private space with this, and they will come to you when they're ready because you opened up a little door by saying something about yourself. So I would say that if they're not yet menstruating. And then for those who have already started menstruating, and we're now talking about we have a 12 or 11, this can happen at 10 or 11 too. But those older ages where, as you notice, our kids are not quite our same kids anymore. That's around 12,
mhm,
13, and then into the 14 and 15 time. What would I do? I would probably do the same thing. I would knock on their door. I'd open the conversation about my own period. I would maybe even at that particular age, it's so actually on the outside, I know it appears a certain way, a certain level of fierceness and independence and distance, but really those ages are very tender. And I am feeling some tears in my eyes. They're very tender.
you're getting emotional.
Asking them for some advice about your own period might be a good way to break a little of the ice because one, you're acknowledging that this is a shared experience that you both have. And two, you're letting her know that you trust that she is taking good care of her body already. And
Mm,
so much so that you're curious about something for yourself. Like, oh, I ran out of pads, but I'm not sure what kind to get. Is there a kind that you like? Unless, of course, you might be buying her pads and you already know.
mhm,
Switch it up so that you might be able to find a way to work that in. I think that could be a way to break the ice with those older girls because they do love to think that they know everything. And a lot of times they do know a lot. It's just that undeniably we know more, but they know a lot and we can bring their knowledge in as a way to help soften them. They might begin to mirror that behavior and come in, a month later. Hey, mom, I think I do want to try a menstrual cup. Do you think we could go look at them? And maybe she's never said anything like that before, but you're like, whoa, like try not to get too excited. Yeah. Okay. We can browse some on my phone. It's not a big deal. Super
yeah.
catch.
What about the role of the father?
Dads play a really important role here. And I recently changed the wording of my cycle show, which we'll talk about, to say it's for parents and preteens to hopefully extend the invitation to males in our lives dads, grandpas, well intended uncles, those kinds of people, brothers, friends. Psychoeducation is for everybody, whether they have a cycle or not. All of us interact with somebody who has a menstrual cycle, and all of us were born from a person who has a menstrual cycle too. And so we invite them as best as we can and change nothing. Change nothing about what you would say. If you'd say it to another woman, try to say it in that way to the man in your life that's important to you because he should hear the unfiltered words that we use about our periods. Just like in the cycle show, I'm not filtering it out for one that a dad comes to or a man comes to. I use the words exactly the same. And then on top of that, one thing that could be really helpful for, like you said, this group that is in the audience of moms with kids who maybe are menstruating, maybe will be menstruating soon, I recommend creating a period kit with your daughters, whether they've had their period or not. You could engage it if they've already started menstruating, and if they haven't, definitely try to engage it. In the kit, something that you should include is 2 notes. One note for the teacher if they get their period at school, that she can slip this note on the desk. She doesn't have to talk to that guy or that woman. It can just say, I just got my period. Can I go to the nurse? Or something like that. Can I use the bathroom?
Mhm,
She's gonna get to go. They're not gonna argue that, and it's discreet. And then the second note is for dad. Talking with her before she gets her period obviously would be great, but even if after, it's like, if I'm not home and you need something that you can't get for yourself, you might have to approach dad. And
Mhm.
let's create this note that you can discreetly slip to dad, whether it says, I got my first period today. Please don't come in my room. Or I got my first period today. I need pads. Or if it's not a first period, I'm having my period today. I don't feel like talking. Or can you please bring dinner to my room? Allowing what boundary works in your family. It might not be for her
Mm.
to eat dinner in her room, but it might be. And if you can allow that to her to have that space, great. And then dad gets a prep talk, so he knows that the note could come. He knows what it says, and he's on board with you with the boundary. He agrees she can have dinner in her room. He's ready to prepare that for her, or he's ready to get the pads, or whatever it is. And some girls want acknowledgement from their dad, but because there was no culture of familiarity built, that intimacy is not there. They want an acknowledgement, but they can't ask for it.
Yeah. I love the note because it's such a way to ask for help, but also like, I just want to let you know, but I don't want to talk about it.
Yes, very low key. And like some girls have said to me, they want their dad not to say anything. Don't say a word. But it's okay with me that mom tells you that I got my first period, and I want you to leave a red rose on my pillow. And I want it to be there when I come home from school. Like, because she wants an acknowledgement to know that he got the message. Mom told him. Now he knows, he understands, and he left the rose because he loves you.
Oh, that's
But she
beautiful.
does not want to tell him that. There's nothing in her that would ever say, please, can you leave me a red rose? No.
But you have these like conversations beforehand, like, I'm going to leave 2 notes in here, and this is for you to use for a teacher, and this is for you to like either let me know or let your dad know.
Yep.
Acknowledge it by one of us will leave a red rose on your bed, or if you don't want dad to talk about it at all, that's fine, but he can leave a red rose on your bed to know that he's there to support you or something. I just think that's
Yes.
a nice unspoken way of navigating something that maybe is super foreign and maybe uncomfortable, which kind of brings me to my next question, because I think this is an important piece of this entire transition in a young girl's life. It's the emotional side of everything. And I think for generations, periods have often been talked about as something that's sort of embarrassing and inconvenient, or even something that we should be hiding. And I think this conversation today is really important because it's trying to shift that narrative. So I love your suggestions because I think it shifts the fear and embarrassment to maybe curiosity or understanding by introducing it early or putting a kit together. I never thought about that. I thought I would just buy something and say, here you go, right? I know my mom was uncomfortable because she never properly was educated about it. And so I just don't want that, even though it is uncomfortable. I can comfortably talk about it with you, and I could comfortably talk about it with her, but also with fear for myself. And
Yeah.
also feeling like, "Ugh, I want you to still be innocent, and I don't want you to know all these things," and then overthink, because some of my girls can be overthinkers. But how do we shift any other examples of how we can shift that narrative and maybe view their cycles as like the episode that we talk about the menstrual cycle, where instead of viewing it as something that's like happening, ugh, disgusting, gross, like to something that actually is beautiful?
For me, this should really be celebrated because it
Mhm.
really is beautiful. And that's how we begin to make the shifts, is by celebrating for ourselves. If we've never done this before, that is going to look a certain way to our family. All of the sudden, you're celebrating this for yourself, and your girls will be affected. Maybe it will still be jarring. Like, why are you suddenly talking about this right now? It's breakfast, you know?
Yeah, I would get like, "Oh, God, oh my
Ew,
god."
stop it. And I think part of it is not necessarily, I don't want to use the word persistent, that we need to be persistent, because it's not about shoving this celebration at anyone, but it's about finding something that we actually do enjoy about our cycles. Honestly, we're not faking it. Something that you do enjoy, even if it's a small thing, because for a lot of us, there's nothing seemingly that we enjoy about getting our period or our menstrual cycle. But find a little something to tack onto and pepper it in. Show and lead by example that this can be celebrated, at least for something. There's something I can celebrate. And hopefully the invitation reaches them, that they can find something to celebrate within themselves and their periods if they're established as cyclers now. For those who are not quite established yet, so maybe they've started menstruating, but they're not regular cyclers like a 17 or 16-year-old might be, but maybe they're 11 and 12 and they've only been having periods for a year or so. At that stage, it might be really a beautiful thing to create a real celebration or ritual around the fact that she's newly menstruating. I guess I do want to amend that though to say you can do that at any age and at any time. It's just that once they turn 15, even 14, they don't want to be acknowledged in that way. They don't want to be put in the limelight, especially about something like a period, whereas an 11 or 12-year-old probably would enjoy to have a celebration centered around their change into adolescence, separate from their change of having a period, like a rite of passage. And once we cross over to the next threshold when we're in our 20s, we start to enjoy that again. We're like, oh, I do want to celebrate this. Can I do my ceremony now? Yes, it's never too late to celebrate your period and that you started having one, even if you're 25. But yeah, there is that window of like 14 to 19 where it's like, I would hate that. Don't do that. Do not invite people here about my period. do not do
Yeah, fair enough. I want to transition now to like the second part of this episode today. So, parents, this next section is for you too, but it's really also for your daughters. So, don't go anywhere because this information could be just as important to you. But if you have a daughter nearby, or if you want to listen to this in its entirety and then re listen, this is the time to invite her to listen along. So, whether she's approaching puberty, has recently gotten her first period, or simply curious about how her body works, the rest of our episode is really intended for her. Because before we can understand the menstrual cycle, we first have to understand the incredible body that makes it happen. And I'm excited because Julie does something called the cycle show, and she's going to use some of her props to kind of go through and help educate about our bodies, about the female body. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Julie. Can you walk us through the female reproductive system?
Yeah, so we can go over the anatomical structures present inside. And in the cycle show, I go over all this information right in the beginning before we start the show, just like you said, so that we have a landscape that we can become familiar with. We get our bearings a little bit with what's going on. And I start right in the middle of everything, right at the heart of our womb with the uterus. And I do have my little uterus here with me. So this is a clay model, just a uterus, not uterine tubes. Obviously, there's no ovaries, just the body of the uterus. And I start right there with her. Once we take a look at the uterus, we see attached on either side are the uterine tubes. They're holding on to ovaries on either side with ligaments, via ligaments. So they're not actually fused, the ovaries to the uterine tubes. From there, so we've got the whole top structure. Remember the uterus, the uterine tubes going back like this, and they're holding ovaries. Going down, this part of the uterus is called the cervix, this whole little thing. Inside it are cervical crypts. That's where cervical fluid is made. This is the cervical os, or the opening. This particular model, for those who can see this and aren't just listening in the car, is meant to look like a cervix that has not given birth. So it's circular, very small. It looks like a donut hole or an earring hole. And after someone has given vaginal birth, it looks like a smile or a slit. It's like a line rather than a hole. So that's the uterus and the cervix. The cervix is right at the very top of our vaginal canal, or the vagina. So I have in the cycle show, all of this is represented. It's a tactile representation on the ground. It's made out of found objects in my home in the thrift store. The vagina is actually a long red blanket that I've kind of folded to be a long rectangle. It's not to scale. I always tell people that when we do the show, but that will be the vagina next, only the inside part. The vagina. The opening there, the vaginal opening, I will transition to a different prop for that. It opens up here. Oop, the vaginal opening. This whole thing where we find the vaginal opening is the vulva. This is not the vagina, it's the vulva with the vaginal opening here. There's another small opening above it. That's the urethral opening attached to the urethra.
That's where your urine comes out of,
That's
right?
the pee hole, the blood hole, the pee hole, and the baby hole too, obviously, our vaginal opening. And then above the urethral opening is the hood of the clitoris. So it's a kind of squishy, floppy tissue, and it protects the clitoris inside. It protects the head of the clitoris. That's the only part we see on the outside. The rest of the clitoris looks like this, and it's on the inside. So the clitoris actually is a network of nerves and legs and bulbs. It has 2 bulbs that become erect and fill with blood, just like a penis. And it has these legs or crews and a body and a head that we see. There is the same amount of tissue in this clitoris as there is in a penis. And they have some of the same names, like the head of the clitoris is analogous to the head of the penis, and the hood of the clitoris is analogous to the hood of the penis if the penis is intact and not circumcised. Then we have inner labia right here. This one is the long one, the dangly bit, and here's the short one. They are uneven. They're modeled after my own. So everybody's looks really different. Sometimes they're long and dangly, sometimes they're short, sometimes they're uneven and one starts up here and ends up here. And it's totally normal for them to look different. There is inside the labia, the vaginal opening, commonly known and previously referred to as the hymen, is the vaginal corona because it looks like a crown for a lot of women with squidgy starfish-shaped edges. And then you can have a little bit of it dangling out of your vaginal opening too. And then we have outer labia here, mons pubis that we see from the front where there's pubic hair, and an anus on the other side. So that's all the external.
That's what you would see on the outside, everything you just described.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's all we see on the outside. I wish I had a nice model of what we see on the inside, but hopefully you could imagine what it would look like based on this clay model of the uterus here. But that is all the anatomy that we talk about in the cycle show, mostly focusing on the internal. So the uterus and the uterine tubes, the ovaries and the follicles inside, the cervix and the vagina, the vaginal canal. But I like to show the external because this is what a lot of girls have questions about.
Oh, interesting.
What is all this stuff?
Yeah, so what is all this stuff? Any other questions that you get that they're curious about when it comes to the external?
A lot of girls, what they really are looking for is reassurance. So they ask weird not weird, no judgment. They ask questions like, why is that one so long? Is that normal? What if someone had a long labia? Would it be okay? What if the vaginal corona was covering up the whole of my vaginal opening? What would happen when I get my period? What if the hood of my clitoris is really small? That one looks big. Are some of them that big? They ask questions like that, and the questions really just mean, am I normal? Am I beautiful? Am I likable? Am I okay? Am I safe?
The answer to all of that is yes.
Resounding yes.
Everybody's body is different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Beautiful, normal, healthy, unless something really goofy is going on, let me know, but normal. So many variations, and I always send them over to, there is a labia library online, and there's also a vulva gallery of just anonymously submitted pictures of people's vulvas and labia.
Oh,
and
wow.
it's really interesting because they're so different, and that blows people's minds that they're like, oh, look at that one, or I prefer this one, It's wild.
Yeah. Okay, so internally, you have the ovaries, you have the ducts.
So we have the ovaries attached to the uterine tubes, or, we're commonly referring to them as fallopian tubes, but I prefer uterine tubes because it's less biased.
Okay. And then uterus. So that's the internal.
That's what we see, for example, on my business card. People are really familiar with it looking like that.
Yeah.
That's not what it really looks like, but it's as good as we could draw.
So now that we know the anatomy, I know that there's other characters of the show, right? There's other players that are part of the cycle. Can you maybe share what those players are?
Yes. So the backdrop to the show is everything we just described. And within the show, the cast or the players are Lord Hypothalamus and Lady Pituitary. And so in real life, these are glands in our brains that are excreting hormones to each other, sending signals throughout our body. In the cycle show, they are played by instruments. So I've got the sticks here, and these might be pituitary. And when the pituitary player comes on in the show, she or he will just start playing the sticks. Similarly, Lord Hypothalamus will have their own instrument to play. So there's the two of them, they're best buddies.
And those are located in the back of our brain.
Yep, those are up here in the back of the brain, and they are super close. Well, they're close in proximity, but they're super close, their relationship in the menstrual cycle. They are talking a lot,
Okay.
gathers, and well, at least in the follicular phase. So we also have queen estrogen and princess progesterone. And these girls are our ovarian hormones in the body. Estrogen is the hormone that's online in the follicular phase and is our main hormone at that time. Progesterone is the main hormone of the second half of our cycle, our luteal phase. So even though these two are best buds, they more like balance each other out rather than sit and talk to each other in the same room. They're usually not in the same room. They're coming on at different times, but they are sisters. They need each other. And then two more characters that we have. One is the cycling woman, and she would wear this red baseball cap just to represent menstruation, but she's not always bleeding. So we call her the cycling woman instead of the menstruating woman. And her role in the cycle show is as we walk through one complete menstrual cycle, we check in with her. We check in with that woman and ask her questions. Hey, it's cycle day 1. How are you feeling, cycling woman? And she will graciously give us an answer about what might be happening for her at that point in her cycle. And we check in with her at several points throughout. We check in early follicular phase. We check in right around ovulation. We check in mid-luteal. And then we check in late luteal, right before she's going to bleed again. So we keep coming back to her and asking how things are going.
Okay. And we'll go into the 2 different phases in more detail when we kind of run through a whole cycle, right?
Oh, yeah, we can break it down. The last character that we have is the keeper of the womb. And this is my favorite character. This person's role in the show is just to use these found objects that I have compiled. They represent menstrual blood in its various forms. They represent cervical fluid and luteal mucus, spotting. And this person, the keeper of the womb, takes these different found objects and brings them down either from the cervix or the uterus down the vaginal canal and out the vaginal opening for us to watch as we see one menstrual cycle happen.
Okay.
So it's super fun. You can get really into it and you'll notice people will respond accordingly to how they view their cycle. So the keeper of the womb might be doing some luteal mucus down the vaginal canal, and she might do that one really slow and sluggish. Whereas when menstrual blood came down, she's like pulling it really fast and frantic. So those are all the characters.
Okay. So we have, I'm just going to go through this, the characters. In terms of the hormones, we have hypothalamus, pituitary, estrogen, queen estrogen, and princess progesterone. So those 4 main hormones. And then you have the ovaries.
We have the cycling woman.
Oh, the cycling woman. That's right. And then you have the queen of the womb.
Yes, the keeper of the womb.
Keeper of the womb. Okay. And then you have the female organs that we talked about, which is the ovaries, the fallopian tubes. What are they called?
The uterine tubes
The
and
uterine tubes, and then the cervix.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so those are all our characters of the play. So let's walk through maybe one full cycle.
So we start with cycle day 1, and it's our first day of red flowing blood. So at that point in the show, we'll ask the cycling woman how she's doing. She'll usually tell us she's very tired, she's crampy, she doesn't want to go out tonight to her friend's party, but she's going to go anyway because she's 18 and that's what you do. But we start there. And at that point in the cycle, I explained that all of the hormones are really low. And because of that, structures like hypothalamus and pituitary are not communicating anything. They're not talking. So we ask them both to be quiet. Because those two are quiet, estrogen and progesterone are quiet. So we ask those two to be quiet. And we have kind of just a quiet room for the duration of these first few days that we're bleeding. So we're in our early follicular phase. As soon as the hormones come online, hypothalamus is saying something to pituitary. So we ask hypothalamus to start making some noise. But it's slow and steady at first, and hypothalamus is communicating with gonadotrophin releasing hormone, and just a little at first. Pituitary, though, is hypothalamus' best friend, so starts responding right away in her own language, which is with follicle stimulating hormone. I always tell the kids, you don't have to remember all these names. You just have to know that hormones are coming now. So Pituitary starts speaking her language. The ovaries listen to that. So when the ovaries get that message, they start producing estrogen. So I look over to estrogen and tell her to hit it, sister, but not too loud. So she's coming online slowly in those early days. Throughout this part of
It's like the hypothalamus, and because the other hormones are starting to talk and saying, you got to listen. So she's
yeah,
starting. to listen.
so
Yeah.
she's starting up slow because they're starting up slow. But as the follicular phase goes on, we ask hypothalamus and pituitary to speak a little louder. Maybe they get up out of their chair and dance while they're using their instruments. And estrogen responds accordingly. So she is also ramping up because the hypothalamus and pituitary are ramping up with their messages. So while everybody is dancing now around me and the cycle show, we get nearer and nearer to ovulation time. Everybody pause. Once it's ovulation time, you have to play your instrument as loud and crazy as you can, do a little dance, because this is when the real orchestra of hormones builds and becomes very noticeable to us in our observable fertility signs. Hypothalamus is going crazy, which is causing pituitary to go crazy, so crazy that pituitary adds more LH too, luteinizing hormone, with the FSH, just so that we can ovulate. That means estrogen's going bananas. And when all of these hormones are going crazy at the same time, we are able to ovulate. So we turn over to the keeper of the womb. She's bringing down some very watery looking cervical fluid from the cervix down the vagina. And we ask the cycling woman, how are you doing? And she said, well, I thought I got my period, but I went to the bathroom and it was just a bunch of watery goo. And then I decided to go out and meet my friends without asking my parents because I just felt like taking a risk and doing all sorts of fun things that we might be inclined to do at this point in our cycle, and especially as a young person. So one girl had told me, too bad my friend's party was during my period because I would love to go now. We just see those changes. So everybody's having a good time except one person, progesterone, who's still quietly waiting for her time to shine. After all of this, an ovulation is passed. We explain that this is the transition into the luteal phase now. And because of that, hypothalamus and pituitary are quiet again. There's a little bit going on, but not a lot. They're quiet. Estrogen too, there's a very little bit maybe going on, but not a lot. And we introduce that new structure, the corpus luteum, the temporary endocrine gland created from the follicle that ruptured during ovulation. We show this little gland as a gray ball of yarn. I say, here she is. Here's the corpus luteum. And with the presence of the corpus luteum, we have progesterone. And so I wave my little wand at her.
Progesterone.
Yes, she finally can start to dance and move about, but she's not as vibrant as estrogen. So she might be doing more slow, thoughtful dance than estrogen was, but she's still dancing because she's finally here to join us. Like I said, we check in with the cycling woman mid-luteal, ask how she's doing. We'll check in the later luteal, and at that point, when we're right about to bleed again, the corpus luteum is dying and disintegrates and passes on. And when it does, progesterone quiets and silences. Hypothalamus and pituitary, estrogen, everyone silences. And we're right back to our cycle day one. So there's, of course, things that go on in the cycle show, but that is basically a complete menstrual cycle with what everybody would kind of be doing. I'm always cueing them in, so nobody has to know about the menstrual cycle to participate. They just know if they're estrogen, they will clang the sticks when I ask them to. And typically, kids really enjoy it. So we have a lot of fun in the cycle show.
So I have a couple questions. So there's two phases to be aware of, right?
Yes.
There's the follicular and then there's the luteal, right? So, okay. So girls, when you're listening, there's just two phases of your cycle. The first one seems to be more active, and that's when you kind of said it, but you didn't say it. That's when the egg releases from the ovary, right?
Yes, that will happen in that first half of our cycle. Our period is included in the first half in our follicular phase too.
And so then when the egg is now interacting and progesterone gets involved, that would be normally when you would conceive a baby. But if you're not, then the progesterone is working, there is no baby, then that's when everything sort of sheds at the end of the luteal phase.
Yeah, in the cycle show with older audiences, we will do an alternate ending. with
Got
the conception.
it.
So,
Yeah.
and we'll always talk about at that point when we have the ovulation and I release a marble into the uterus made out of a sheet. We
Yeah.
release a marble and we watch
Representative of an egg.
of the egg
Yeah.
from the follicle. That egg will be there, that marble. I just wait a few seconds and let everyone know 12 to 24 hours, this guy disintegrates. We cover it up with the sheets, gone. Unless the sperm were to somehow meet the egg during this brief window and a conception were to occur, then I have an alternate ball of yarn. It's
Yeah.
blue. That one would become a blastocyst.
Yeah.
And it would stay there and become a pregnancy if everything goes to plan in our body. Whereas most of the time, since that doesn't happen, our little blastocyst
The
goes.
majority of the
The
time.
vast majority. We have our corpus luteum just there, making sure that things are going smoothly, making sure that you get a robust hit of progesterone that cycle because you need it for so many other things besides a healthy pregnancy. Our bodies use progesterone for so many other functions that we need. It's very anti-inflammatory. It helps the nervous system. It helps our bones and tissues. So we need it no matter what. It will be there. But usually our corpus luteum will die 12 to 14 days. Always.
Completely normal.
Yes, we get plenty of them.
And then that's when you see the different cervical fluid, and then you'll get your period after that.
Yeah, so after the corpus luteum is gone and dies, we will get our period immediately.
Okay. So I have a question that maybe some young girls are thinking. Once I get my period, does that mean I get pregnant? Does that mean I'll have a baby?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. So just because you start getting a period by no means that you are pregnant and will have a baby or that you will get pregnant and have a baby. All it means is that you can. Your body is now capable of being pregnant. Just because you can get pregnant doesn't mean that you will. In fact, you might never. You might decide not to parent and never get pregnant, but all throughout your life, you will get periods because our body's way of showing us that we're otherwise healthy is by giving us periods. So thankfully, diagnosis, not pregnant, and don't have to get pregnant, just that you are now able to. But we know a lot of things about those kinds of statements, like just because I can do something doesn't mean I want to. It doesn't mean I will.
And then also, what about like how often does the period come? And then how long is a period?
That's a good question. We should go over some specs of this. Once you start getting periods, there may be a time that your periods are not coming regularly. They might not be coming every month like you were told they would, and that's normal. It can take some time to adjust. Once they are coming regularly, though, they should come about once a month, about every 30 days. We really say between 27 and 36 days is awesome. Super healthy, optimal length between periods. That said, your period itself should be between about 3 and 7 days. Most people have a 5 or 6 day period, but between 3 and 7 is normal, is healthy, is optimal. Any less than 3 would be not optimal. Any more than 7 would probably not be optimal either. That said, if you're a young listener and you've started getting your period about a year ago and you have 8-day periods right now, don't panic because that is normal for a body who's transitioning into regular periods. Totally normal.
Yeah. And then cramping, mild cramping, not severe cramping, is also normal, right? Because if you think about what's happening, why are we feeling cramping? Can you explain that to them?
Yeah. So when we are bleeding, the blood needs a pump to release it from the body, and the pump is our uterus. I'm going to hold it up again. The uterus is a big old muscle, and our muscles contract. And so the uterine muscle contracts like a heart beating. And when it does that, the blood flows down. So when it's doing that, contracting, it can be painful and it can cause cramping. It's very normal. And especially in a younger body that hasn't been cycling as long, your uterus has never done this before. It's never had to contract for any reason. So it's going to be a little more intense than somebody who has been cycling for a long time and their uterus knows exactly what to do. But that said, I want to make sure that we say, if you are in debilitating pain and it's hard to go to school and it's hard to meet your obligations or have a conversation with someone without thinking about the pain because it's hurting so much, it's cause for curiosity and potentially investigation. And there's a lot of things that you can do at home with your parents or by yourself to help lessen and ease the pain without having to resort to getting medication right away. You might want some medication, but there's some things we can try first to ensure that you're really getting what your body needs to not get so many cramps.
And I think it's important that you talk to someone that you're comfortable talking to. Although a friend is great, like an adult. So whether it's your mother or your father, an aunt, an uncle, grandma, grandpa, talk to them about how you're feeling because they can help you, whether it's giving you things that might help you feel better, or if it's severe pain, going to a doctor and being able to talk to them about it and figuring out what you can help. But there are some things, Julie, right, that they can do. This is for parents and girls. This is for you to also share with your parents so you can have these tools in your house. They're a little bit more natural things that you can either drink in like a tea or put on your body that will naturally support your body during these times of the month where you might be more physically uncomfortable. So, Julie, can you share some of those tips and tricks?
Yeah, if you are someone who has painful periods or experiencing cramping, there's a lot that we can do. I always start by recommending peppermint and black pepper essential oils that you can put topically along your womb or on your back, because some of us do get back pain instead of cramping in the front.
Well, your womb is really just your stomach, right? Your belly.
Yeah, well, your low belly, like from your pubic bone to your belly button. And if you were to, and I wonder if anyone is interested out there to do such an activity, if you put fingernails of your four fingers together, like a V, and then connected your thumbs to make an upside down triangle, you could place that with the four fingers right onto your pubic bone. So it's like a very tender feeling hard structure right on the middle of your mons pubis, your pubic bone. And place the top of those fingers there and then lay your hands flat on your belly. That is really what we're talking about on your womb.
Okay.
It's low belly.
Okay. So that you would put the peppermint and the black pepper on top.
Yep, right on the womb space or right on the low back, right where you feel discomfort. And
Okay.
that's also a great place to put a hot water bottle, which I know everyone thinks is very old school and not helpful because you have to lay down, but it's actually very helpful because the warmth is bringing blood flow to those organs. And while that sounds counterintuitive because you are bleeding from your vagina at this time, you want blood to flow in that direction. You want it to flow down and out, and bringing warmth will be helpful. So there is a particular water bottle that I like versus other heating pads because it is long, like a pencil. It's long and skinny, and you can wrap it around your waist, tie it, walk around with it, lay down with it. It's called a UU, and I swear by my UU.
All right. So we'll put that in the resources.
That in the resources. As far as tea and herbs go, one thing that is really supportive for periods, so think red. Red foods, red meat are all supportive of our blood and therefore of our period. One tea that I like to prepare and recommend to younger cyclers is with red raspberry leaf, hibiscus flower, and some cinnamon. So the hibiscus flower is really nourishing for our blood, and it's high in antioxidants, which we need always, but during our periods especially. And then the red raspberry leaf is strengthening the muscles of our uterus, making it easier for the uterus to contract without pain because it will be stronger if we are consistent. And the cinnamon is because it tastes
That
good.
would help with cramping, right? Over time.
Yes, that will help over time with cramping. That particular blend is something you can steep at home. You can steep it all night long. So that means you make the tea, but instead of drinking it hot, you just let it sit all night. You can make a big mason jar of this tea, strain it in the morning, add a little honey because hibiscus is tart. But I think doing that regularly in the days leading up to your period and during your period can profoundly shift two things: your actual physical cramps And secondly, how you feel about your period. It becomes something to look forward to that you or your mom or your dad lovingly does for you when you're bleeding, and it becomes a comfort, I think. So I love herbs for that. It's very comforting.
I'm just thinking because like all the kids love the Starbucks and stuff. Can you do those teas, steep them overnight, and then like pour that over ice and drink it?
Yeah, you could pour that over ice and
It
drink
doesn't have to be like, but of course, like if you want to be comfy under comfy blankets and sweatpants and teas, but like a lot of kids don't drink teas, you could do that as an alternative. You're going to school, you could be drinking it like,
I drink it cold like a juice.
yeah, okay.
In the morning when I strain the leaves, the tea is cold or room temp. Then you want to add honey when it isn't hot, because that will kill off some of the good bacteria in the honey if you do it hot. So I do it cold, and then I put it in the fridge, and it's so refreshing. I drink it cold, but you could heat it. You could put it over ice. The only downfall to icing and drinking it out of the fridge, which I do, as I said, is that we do want to consume more warming foods when we're bleeding than cold foods. It's just better for our digestion, which directly impacts our period cramps and flow, because our uterus is touching to our colon.
Mm-hmm.
And so if our colon's not happy and we're not digesting optimally, our uterus isn't going to be happy either.
Okay. Can we talk about nutrition a little bit and food? How important nutrition plays in? So it's not just eating healthy, but it's eating the right foods to help nourish the body during the different times, the different phases. So can you share that a little bit?
So one thing that I always tell people, I'm not a big advocate for cycle syncing. The reason why is because people typically feel different in their different parts of their cycle than others do. And so you really want to, instead of syncing to a plan that someone might come up with about eating, listen to your body and try to figure out what you might need as an individual. That said, when we're in our follicular phase, because estrogen is again the hormone of the season at that point, we want to do meals and foods that support estrogen clearance. So we're eating cooked veggies, getting lots of fiber from fresh fruit, not dried or anything, fresh fruit. Feel that that's important to say. People love to eat a lot of dried fruit. Also, we want to eat a lot of healthy fats, so things like tallow, lard, butter, coconut oil. We want to have things that are as close to we can find it in nature as we can.
Okay.
So keeping the fats healthy and keeping meats also healthy. If you eat meat, try to look for grass-fed and pastured things. If you're shopping at the store, if you can get local or your parents get local, even better. But in the follicular phase, the most important thing that I talk about out of those groups is the fiber. Lots of cooked veggies, cruciferous greens, so things like broccoli, collard greens, kale, dino kale, so good, collard, Swiss chard, things that are green and leafy, and we can cook them. The fiber helps us to metabolize and excrete extra estrogen. So we want to get as much as we can in the follicular time. And the luteal time, we're thinking cozy. We still want to get carbs from fresh fruits, fiber from cooked veggies, but we want to hone in on also other types of carbs too. So not just carbs from fresh fruit, but sweet potatoes and grains that you enjoy eating. Don't try to make it hard. If you don't enjoy quinoa, don't have quinoa. Have brown rice or organic white rice, but a little bit more carbs with meat. So those healthy meats that we talked about, thinking cozy, because our body is doing cozy things internally. So we do cozy things on the outside.
Okay. I love that. Before we close out, can we bust some myths? I think this is like the perfect opportunity to sort of address some of those misconceptions, because I think there are a lot of messages girls receive about their bodies that really aren't true. And I think those messages can create fear or shame or confusion.
Okay, let's do it.
So what are the biggest myths that you want to debunk for girls about their periods?
One thing that I hear a lot is that you can get your period anytime. So you should always be prepared. And while that might be true for the first period that you ever get from menarche, you don't know when it's going to come. It could come at any age, at any moment. Once we're cycling, you do know when your period's going to come. It's not some mystical, magical thing that is so elusive and we can't understand. You can know when your period is coming, but we will always know that our period is coming 12 to 14 days from when we ovulate, because the corpus luteum only has this finite lifespan of 12 to 14 days. it's going to die after that, and we're going to get a period after that. So
But
if we
how can a young girl know when they're ovulating?
the easiest way to know is by taking your temperature in the morning. If you can get your
Like in mouth
in
temperature?
your oral temperature with whatever thermometer, as long as it's not a fever or a quick read. So if the thermometer takes at least 30 seconds to register, that's the gold standard. Mine, I got at Walgreens, I think it was $3.99. But if you can get a temperature every morning around the same time before you get out of bed and you write the temperatures down, you will be able to see that you have ovulated because you will be able to see your temperatures shift from low in the follicular phase when estrogen is cooling the body to high in the luteal phase when progesterone is warming the body. That's how we confirm that ovulation did happen. We know about when, and we know about how long that luteal phase is, so we can count the days, and we know that because the corpus luteum structurally cannot live longer than 12 to 14 days, in some cases 15 or 16 for those with a very robust corpus luteum, we know it will die after that, and then we know that we will get a period. So it's not mystical or magical. There is a physiological action that's happening that we can see.
Okay. Are there any myths around cervical fluid?
Oh, yeah. What a good question. Everybody thinks, for some reason, that cervical fluid is dirty, gross, bad, sign of
Maybe explain what cervical fluid is too. We talked about it a little bit, but just so that girls can understand, what is that?
Right. Yes. So cervical fluid, we will see coming out of the vaginal opening, sometimes onto toilet paper when you're wiping after you have gone pee. Sometimes you'll see it in your panties as a streak or a blotch, like a circular shaped, looks like there was some liquid there, blotch in the panties. That is actually a secretion made by the cervix. So it's not from your vagina at all. It's made by your cervix, which we talked about is this little end of the uterus. It's made in the crypts of the cervix, and it's a very healthy secretion and sign of fertility, and it's a sign of estrogen. But we see it down on the toilet paper, in our panties. You might feel a little slide out when you're sitting down. You're like, ooh, what was that? Cervical fluid, also known by most households in America today as discharge. I don't like that word. I've got a bone to pick with it, and that's the myth to bust. Is it's not discharge. Discharge is a word that in my community of fertility awareness, we use to describe abnormal, unhealthy secretions that show a sign of infection or some other abnormality like an STD, a yeast infection. Maybe if the cervix has had some damage and something's going on differently, discharge is showing us something is wrong.
I don't know the difference between the both, right? So how do I know what's cervical fluid and discharge? Visually, what will I see?
Yes. So with cervical fluid, with healthy vaginal secretions, cervical fluid, we will see all kinds of different textures, but you will see patterns within the textures that you see. So after your period, you might have some days where your vulva and vagina feel dry, and that's totally normal. At a certain point, though, you will start to see fluid. We call it the point of change. And at that point, you might see something that looks like hair conditioner or hand lotion, white, creamy. You could rub it in your fingers and it's got a particular waxy sensation on your hands. So it could look like that, and that's healthy and normal. It could also look like yogurt, where it's thinner than that hair conditioner texture, but it's still white, and you can still see that it's making little peaks if you were to move it between your thumb and forefinger. So it could look like that. It could look like Elmer's glue, or even feel like you rubbed a glue stick on the tips of your fingers. That would be a very, very early on secretion in the cycle. And then it will change and it will look like hand sanitizer. If you poured some hand sanitizer into your hand, it's like moving around. It's like watery and it's slippery, and you could pick it up, but it would drip off your fingers. And another good example of that particular type is if you have clear, not the green one, aloe vera gel. Clear aloe gel would look like this. Egg whites, not the yolk, but the whites, would look like this. All of those things are healthy and normal. If they're tinged with a little bit of pink, that can be healthy and normal. That can happen around ovulation. It means that there's a little blood from the rupture of your follicle. when you ovulated. Once we've ovulated, it's perfectly normal and healthy for the secretions to be a little yellow. Progesterone will make them a little bit yellow, like if you put a dab of mustard into the yogurt and mixed it up. It's very light yellow. And this secretion, this type of cervical fluid after ovulation, we call luteal mucus, it's very acidic. So if you were to smell it, you would smell that acidic smell. If you were to be so bold as to taste it, you would taste that it's acidic
Oh,
too.
wow. Okay.
Very different. Our fertile secretions are sweet, almost like tinged by a cantaloupe sweet, different for everybody.
Okay.
But the luteal mucus is acidic because we don't want sperm to like it. They don't like it because it's acidic. All of that is really normal and we see it regularly, and it's not bad if you're noticing you see that white creamy stuff every month, but you think you're getting yeast. Not normal. Or it is totally normal. It's not yeast.
Yeah, every woman and girl, that happens to them. And I don't think that was ever explained to me.
I don't think that anyone really explains it. I remember when I first discovered my own cervical fluid as I was maybe 12, and I thought, what is this? Oh my God. I'm like, I would go to the bathroom, not even to pee, but just to wipe, because you get a lot of it when you're at that age because it's so new for your body. Your cervix is like, yeah, let's create some of this. It's so fun. But it's healthy. And when it's unhealthy, when it is more of a discharge, once you get to know your normal cervical fluid, you'll be able to tell instantly, oh,
Okay.
this one smells kind of fishy or too musky, earthy. This one is kind of gray or green. That's not right. Something's going on. It might be bubbly.
And then what should we do if they observe this?
Tell a trusted adult immediately. If you are nervous to tell your mom, I still recommend telling her, but maybe tell someone who might be a gateway to her, like a friend's mother, a teacher that you really like. If you know a fertility awareness educator, that's a great place to tell. But telling your parents would be great if you can tell your parents, because
Who can
it
help
would
you?
be an infection.
And we're here to help.
And we're here to help. And even if a parent were to react with some embarrassment or make you feel some shame, the truth is she's experienced this too.
Mm-hmm.
And she is familiar with it. And she's going to help you. It's just embarrassing for her. And you don't have to be embarrassed.
Yep. And again, like you said earlier, it's something that you guys maybe can talk about because you can both relate, and you can sometimes even help your moms because they're trying to, and they're learning maybe at the same time you're learning in this episode.
True. They are probably trying harder than you are able to see.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying very hard. And so sometimes once you open the door as the daughter, she could hold it open.
So we've covered so much today, from first periods and puberty to hormones, anatomy, and understanding the different phases of the cycle and cervical fluid. If there's one thing you wish every girl could know about her menstrual cycle and her body, what would it be?
These are always so hard for me. I think, again, it would be something very cheesy. Like when you're faced with this real question, it always comes off so cheesy that your body is so beautiful. Every cell in your body, every single one, and there's millions, maybe billions, every day are working to make sure you are alive and healthy. Their priority is you every day. They love you for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And they are also the same cells, organs, and tissues that are making your menstrual cycle. And that happens because you're healthy, because you are amazing, and you have been created purposefully.
Yeah, just love yourself.
Love yourself. Just try to give love to yourself in a small dose every single day.
Loving yourself and nurturing yourself during the times when you get your period too can be just as beautiful. It doesn't have to be something that's like, take care of yourself. Be comfy. Eat extra leafy greens, or just be comfy, cozy in your bedroom or on the couch, or cuddle with the people that you love. I think that it's just a great way for you as a young girl just to take care of yourself.
Yeah, you'll be setting yourself up for future success by
Yeah.
doing so, for sure.
So, Julie, if parents or the young girls who are listening want to see a show in person, or they want to be able to connect with you to help navigate like early stages in getting their period, or even the adults want to reach out to you and have you help them, what's the best way to reach you?
Yes. So you can always find me on Instagram at the Cycle Lady. And then my website is thecyclelady.com, which can take you right to where to schedule a free discovery call, or you can email me at thecyclelady@outlook.com, which is my favorite and preferred way to get messages. As for the cycle show, I do them all throughout the year. They're always free around Charlotte.
Okay.
And I do several a year. So I recently did a bunch, and I'll probably do
But
one.
those are advertised on your website, right? So at
They'll
any
be
point.
on my website too. There's
Perfect.
a tab to go to see the cycle show, and it will have all the dates where I'm going to be. And I typically add in more because it's just such a fun little afternoon. So we'll
Yeah.
probably do some more.
Okay. Awesome. So here's what I hope everyone that's listening can take away from this conversation. Your menstrual cycle isn't something to fear. It's not something to hide. And it's certainly not something to be ashamed of, because you are beautiful and you are you, and it's completely and utterly normal. It's just one of the ways that your body is communicating with you. So the more we understand our bodies, the more confident, informed, and empowered we can become as young women, because understanding your cycle isn't just about your period. It's understanding your body and your health and yourself. So maybe that's the education many of us wish we would have had received all along. So Julie, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and passion with us today. It was really so much wonderful information, so much so that I think you can listen to this conversation multiple times to get as much as you can out of it. So to everyone listening, if this conversation resonated with you, share it with somebody who needs to hear it. Follow the show, leave a review, and as always, stay curious, stay empowered, but most of all, stay well. Thanks, everyone. If today's conversation left you feeling curious about your own health, inspired to make a change, or simply wanting to reconnect with yourself, I'd love to support you. At Women's Wellness Authority, my mission is to help women reconnect with themselves through health, healing, and community. Whether that's through a restorative sound healing experience, a one-on-one energy alignment session, or the educational resources I share, my goal is to help you better understand your body, regulate your nervous system, and create sustainable wellness, one small step at a time. To learn more, explore upcoming events, or find the next step that's right for you, visit womenswellnessauthority.com. Please note, the information shared on the Women's Wellness Authority podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or replace medical advice. Always consult your qualified healthcare provider before making changes to your healthcare routine.